You felt it. It wasn't tiredness. It wasn't laziness. And it wasn't a lack of discipline. It was that strange desire, almost mysterious, almost impossible to explain. Oh, simply lie down. Not because your day was heavy, not because your body needed rest, but because something inside you started shutting down quietly and deeply, as if your soul had pulled an invisible thread and said enough. For now, I can't keep standing anymore. And the most unsettling part is that nothing, absolutely nothing, feels strong enough to make you get up. Not coffee, not motivation, not pressure, not obligation. Life keeps moving, but you don't. You pause. You sink. And the more you try to resist, the more you feel that invisible pull dragging you downward, as if the only possible position is lying down, as if the floor is the only place where your soul can still breathe. What almost no one understands, and maybe you haven't understood yet either, is that this isn't physical. It isn't mental. It's spiritual. And when the spirit calls, it doesn't matter how much force you use, how many goals you create, or how many times you tell yourself tomorrow it'll go back to normal. The soul doesn't move at the pace of the mind. And when it decides something is wrong, it brings you to your knees. It silences you. It forces you to confront what you ignored for far too long. It starts with subtle signs. You wake up already feeling heavy, not a normal heaviness, but one that seems to come from withiness if the air had become thicker, as if the world had turned louder than you can bear. Light becomes irritating. Notifications drain you. The idea of talking feels like walking into a storm without shelter. And no matter how simple a day's task is, something inside you whispers, don't go, don't push, not today. It's an energetic rejection, a deep disconnection between you and the frequency around you. The world keeps spinning fast, but you don't. You've changed. Your energy has changed. Your sensitivity has changed. You notice things you used to ignore. You tolerate far less than you once did. And what used to feel comfortable now feels irritating, suffocating, wrong. Empty conversations, harsh environments, shallow content, obligations you fulfill only because you always have. Your soul no longer fits in those places. And every time you try to force yourself into them, your body reacts with silence, with heaviness, with that mysterious invitation to lie down. And so you lie down not to rest, but to escape, to step out of the noise, to unplug from the excess, to return to yourself. It's as if your soul were saying you're absorbing frequencies that no longer belong to your path. Withdraw, recalibrate, purify, because despite what people say, lying down isn't always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's healing. Sometimes it's the only way to keep yourself from breaking before you awaken. There's also a critical moment in this journey when the urge to lie down is no longer about escape, but about collapse. Not a destructive collapse, but a revealing one. A collapse that dismantles everything you pretended to be. All the identities you carried for decades. All the emotional performances you put on to avoid disappointing others. The soul refuses to keep playing roles that no longer make sense. And so it pulls you down to the floor, to the silence, because silence is the only place where it can speak. This is the point where most people get scared. They think they're losing control, failing, regressing. But spiritually, this is the most precious moment. It's the moment when you finally stop pretending. Your soul is exhausted not by what you do, but by what you fake, what you swallow, what you carry for everyone else. You've been strong for too long, the responsible one, the balanced one, the one holding everything together. But now it's over. The soul says we're not carrying identities that aren't ours anymore. This collapse is, in truth, a rebirth in disguise. In the state of exhaustion, you start feeling strange things. You lose interest in what once excited you. You pull away from people without knowing why. You find your own emotions unfamiliar, as if they no longer belong to you. Your old identity begins to dissolve. You don't know who you're becoming, but you know you're no longer who you were. This confusion isn't failure. It's transition. It's the space between the old and the new, between the role and the truth, between the mask and the soul. And that's why you feel the need to lie down, not to rest, but to integrate, to process everything leaving and everything entering at the same time. It's too intense a process to experience standing. There's also a type of exhaustion that doesn't come from the present, but from the past, especially from your childhood self. The part of you that had to be strong too early, that wasn't allowed to cry, that wasn't allowed to relax, that learned to behave even when the world felt frightening. And this inner child tired of being ignored awakens when you begin to grow spiritually. It shows up as this deep urge to lie down, to stay quiet, to disconnect from the world. Because when you're lying down, your soul finally has space to hold them, hear their pain, and heal their wounds. And this process isn't pretty. It isn't glamorous. It isn't Instagram-worthy. It's made of tears without reason, memories resurfacing out of nowhere, intense sensations you can't explain. But all of it is liberation. Your body asks for a bed because your soul is performing surgeria, deep cleansing of everything you've accumulated without realizing it. Fears, wounds, guilt, expectations, other people's energy, emotions that were never yours, but that you carried anyway. When you're about to walk through a new energetic doorway, the soul shuts you down. It puts you in rest mode, not because you're failing, but because you're being reconfigured. Not because you're weak, but because you're about to become stronger than you've ever been. And before every great leap, there is always a deep silence. The problem is, you were taught that stopping is wrong, that resting is wasted time, that lying down is weakness. But spiritually, it's the opposite. Lying down is preparation. It's the body opening itself to receive a new version of you. It's the spirit gathering strength for what's coming. Because something is coming. A new cycle, a new perception, a new energy. And the soul senses it before the mind does. It slows you down so you can finally notice what you've never noticed. So you can see what has always been hidden behind the rush. So you can hear what only becomes audible in total silence. And when you rise again, because yes, you will rise, you won't rise with the same identity you had when you laid down. You will rise with new clarity, with new strength, with a new frequency. That's why the soul brings you to ground, so you stop surviving and finally start awakening. So if you've been feeling this, if your body craves the floor, the bed, the silence, if your mind can't keep masking what's exploding inside, stop blaming yourself. You're not breaking. You're being rebuilt. You're not lost. You're finding yourself again. Now tell me in the comments so I can understand how deeply this reached you. Have you been feeling this calling? Do you sense your soul is trying to tell you something? Do you feel something inside you changing, even if you can't explain it? Comment, "I'm listening to what my soul is trying to say." Leave a like if this truly spoke to you, and subscribe so more people can find this awakening too. You're not going through this alone. You're evolving.